And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Real Fellas Talk Sports. Gentlemen, anyway, I was getting ready to give it start your engines. I'm here in Indianapolis, and that's what we do. We start our engines. Let's start with Larry Abels. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, David. How about yourself?
I'm doing great in the capital city, the sports capital of the world. Chuck Snowden, Charles Snowden II. How are you doing?
David, I'm doing wonderful. David, I must give you some kudos. I love the tweaks that you made to the opening of the show. Good job.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Earl, go, Rush. How are you?
I'm doing great, David. Thank you for asking. And I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you gentlemen on the show.
All right. We got a lot of sports to talk about, a lot of NFL, a lot of nuances to the NFL this past week and upcoming weeks. And let me start with you, Earl. Your thoughts on, is there a sense of what we saw this past weekend that really stuck with you with the NFL this past weekend?
Well, we had just been talking about it before we started the show. I thought Jayden Daniels' performance was exceptional. It was exceptional. He did a great job. He hasn't punted. They haven't punted since the first game, I think.
That's correct.
That's not true. They ain't played 3 games without punting, but they've done great.
Right.
Maybe we don't need punters anymore. Chuck, your initial thoughts about the NFL.
He's right. Daniels was tough. The Commanders have not punted in 2 games. They haven't punted since their first game. They've 14 straight possessions they've scored on in 2 straight. That's incredible. And oh, by the way, in that game, Cincinnati didn't punt. Cincinnati scored a lot. Neither team punted, and neither team had a turnover. That was a good game.
Larry Abels, your initial thoughts about the NFL week we just saw.
Well, I'm like those two. I thought it was pretty good offensively. And I will put a little caveat that they didn't score every time. They had a couple of kneel downs, but other than the kneel downs, Washington scored every time. To that end, Chuck and I were talking the other day. It was a game that I really liked, the Saints and the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Old school type game, in Chuck's words. It was defensively, but it didn't look like a sloppy game. It looked like a very competitive game, back and forth. The Eagles pulled it out, but I thought that really was one of the games I enjoyed the most this weekend.
Since we're all connected in some way, you guys much more so than me, but we all have the Washington, D.C. connection. Let me start with the Washington Commanders and the Cincinnati Bengals, that game which showed up on Monday Night Football. And we've got Jayden Daniels. Right now, he looks like he's very polished. He looks like the best of the rookie quarterbacks so far. Earl, I know you historically have problems with the Washington football team, but what are your thoughts about the future of the Washington team? Can the Commanders re-energize a market that's kind of gone sour on them?
They could, but I doubt it. I mean, they have so many holes in the team. Just because they have a good quarterback, it doesn't mean it's going to change the outcomes of their game. As you said earlier, Cincinnati didn't even punt.
Right.
And the Redskins' defense is horrible. But to answer your question, it's not be long-winded. I don't think it's going to change their fortune because they have a great quarterback.
Larry, your thoughts about the future of the Washington franchise, and what is the fan base re-energized, or is this just fool's gold?
The previous regime did a lot of damage in multiple ways. Weren't very good with public relations, and the team wasn't good. I think if the team starts winning, they could probably get the fans back, but it's going to be a process. Daniel certainly gives us some hope. Hopefully he'll be successful and they can add on to the team every year.
Chuck, you are a staunch Commanders slash Redskins slash Washington football team fan. Are you hopeful? Are you re-energized?
I am hopeful, and Larry is as well. So let's not. I don't want to sugarcoat that either. I think they have a piece. You start with that quarterback. I thought the coaching was good. I thought Clint Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, did a good job in the way they called the game, and they don't put him in harm's way too much. And the kid just executes. I mean, Cincinnati played really well, but still lost. So I give us a lot of hope, but Earl is right. They have no defense right now. But they got pieces. The wide receiver, McLaurin, is straight out of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Cathedral High School. Amen.
Yep.
While we're talking about that particular game, the Cincinnati Bengals, which have become everybody's favorite in the last few years, went to the Super Bowl several years ago. Joe Burrow, who's been anointed, they're struggling. They're 0-3. Larry, your thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals? Are they going to come back, or are they going to be the old Cincinnati Bengals?
Are they going to come back or be the old Cincinnati Bengals? Okay. Normally, when I think of that, I think of the Bengals as a pretty decent team. But when you're down 0-3, you know, I'm sure they're going to have some other games that's going to be tough for them. I thought they were going to win this one. I think I was even on the air saying I expected them to get well because they have Washington and Carolina the next 2 weeks. Well, half of that proposition fell through for them. So I think they're in bad shape this year. You know, they still have a lot of talent offensively for sure. Definitely need to strengthen their defense. So, answer your question, I don't think they're coming back making the playoffs this year.
Earl, your thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals? Are they for real? Is this 0-3 a mirage? Can they turn it around, or are they just the old Bengals?
Okay, no, it's not a mirage. You see what you said. They're 0-3. They're 0-3. And when you know, yes, Jayden Daniels has came up big and looked great, but they're 0-3, man. They are what they are, man. They're not going to the playoffs. It's not a mirage what we're seeing. They're just not that good. Higgins has been hurt. The other wide receiver, Chase, even though he killed the Redskins, hasn't even been playing the whole preseason. It's just not their year.
Chuck Snowden.
So they could have won the Kansas City game. They could have won the Commanders game the other night. They're in a tough division. That division has the Ravens and the Steelers and I think even the Browns. I don't know that they can come back. I wouldn't be surprised if they did come back from 0-3. But I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be surprised because they got some talent on that team. And that quarterback is good.
All right. Another game that we can look at, the Rams versus the 49ers. The Rams found a way to win. The Los Angeles Rams beat the San Francisco 49ers, who are injury struck. And let me start with you, Chuck.
They are.
49ers are what's going on with them?
I don't know. But everybody, even Purdy got hurt in that game. Purdy's hurt. The receivers, the running back went to Germany to see if he can get his Achilles and calf looked at. He didn't play. They're just injured. And usually that's a game they would put away, and they didn't. I think both of those teams have good coaches. I do. I think the 49ers are in trouble this year. I really do. I don't know that they can overcome all these injuries that they have.
Larry.
I just thought they blew the game. I know McCaffrey's been out, but the guy that's replaced him has played well all 3 weeks. Now they lost Debo this week and the tight end, so that once you get so many injuries, it's kind of hard to overcome all of that. But they should have won that game. They had that game won, and a monumental collapse at the end.
Earl.
As everyone has stated before, they just have too many injuries, man.
Yeah.
They just have too many injuries. It makes it so bad. The Rams' injury list is just as bad. So, as Chuck said, I don't think San Francisco is in trouble.
Is this a season when, with trouble with both franchises, the Rams and the 49ers, is this a season where we're going to see the Seattle team finally get back into prominence because they are 3-0? Are we sleeping on Seattle, Earl?
You know my answer to that, but the viewers do not.
No, I do not know.
Oh, you don't know?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Well, you gotta have a quarterback to go somewhere. And your man, you think has improved. He's played decent the last couple of years, but he's not a winning quarterback. And as long as he's quarterback, I will never think that Seattle's going anywhere.
Okay, that's kind of rough. But it's an honest appraisal from the sports doctor. You're the one with the doctorate. Chuck Snowden.
He's talking about Geno Smith. I'm not a huge Geno Smith fan either, except he did have a bounce back 2 years ago, and he's off to a pretty good start this year. That you're like you said, they're 3-0. They picked up the assistant coach with the Ravens, and that guy's done a good job with them so far. So
Youngest coach in the NFL.
yeah. So I haven't really locked in on them yet, but they are 3-0.
Larry, your thoughts on the Seattle team and whether this is a real thing for them?
They're off to a good start. I still think the 49ers are the team to beat in that division. Their injuries are not that serious, other than perhaps McCaffrey, even though he's a very big part of them. But I look for their defense. 49ers defense is so good. I don't know what happened in the end of the Rams game, but I expect them to win their division. I think the 3-0 started. Get off the 3-0, you have a good shot of making the playoffs. But I don't look for them to make that much noise.
Okay, let's see what we got. Kung Fu, what's up?
What's up, Kung Fu?
Kung Fu, what's up?
Thanks for tuning in.
Kung Fu is right now our spokesperson in the audience, talking about the Bengals.
Tell them it's the Commanders now, though.
And
It's
the Commanders.
proper thing.
No, tell him it's Joe Burrow and not Joe Burrow.
Hey, Kung Fu, thanks for chiming in, man.
We pick on him every week, don't we?
He's a loyal viewer. Leave him
Thanks
alone.
for chiming in.
Earl is brutal but true. No statement can be truer than that.
Hey, Robert Woods, how you doing?
What's up, Bobby?
Right.
What's going on?
All right, there's our initial howdy do's. We got some more coming as we continue the Real Fellas Talk Sports program. Eagles against the Saints. Last week, I anointed the Saints as the number one team in the NFL. Boy, was I pretty dumb. What do you think? Are the Eagles back or are the Saints a mirage? And Larry, let me start with you.
Well, I think I commented earlier. I thought that was a very good game. Eagles pulled off a couple of big plays and got ahead. That was a good game. I think both teams are good. And, the Saints didn't give the game away. They just didn't perform as well offensively as they had in the past. But good game. I respect both teams.
Okay. Let me go to you, Chuck.
I agree with Larry. What was the score? Like 15-13 or something like that. And Saquon had that long touchdown run.
That's
which really broke their back. Prior to that, it was just a good game. And I'll tell you something, Philadelphia needed that win. So I think the Saints, we got to keep an eye on them. They've got a good ball club down there.
They're not wearing paper bags anniemore.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing our guy Chase Young playing defensive end for them. I didn't see him do that much, but you got to keep an eye on those Saints, especially in their division. That's not the strongest division in the NFL.
Earl.
I thought it was a good game, very good game. As far as the Saints being a mirage, I'm not going to say that they're a mirage, but they're not going anywhere. They have the same problem with Seattle. You got to have a quarterback to win, man. The Saints are just starting off fast. They're not that good.
And that's a fair statement. We're only 3 games into the season, but 17 games do go quickly, and we do make snap judgments on who's good and who's bad. Let me see. We talked about.
One quick comment about the
Oh,
Saints.
go ahead. Go ahead.
So there was 2 games, their first 2 games, they too hadn't punted. They scored, I think, every time for the first 2 games of the season. And then Washington, like I just find that fascinating because that's something I don't see very often. I don't know if the kickoff rule coupled with the long field goals that these kickers are now kicking has contributed to that a little bit. But the Saints, for the first 2 games, they hadn't punted either. So.
Well, let you raise an interesting point because overall the game is different. We're kicking kickoffs from a different spot. The defenders and the offense on kickoffs are in different places. There's different rules. The defense is ahead of the offense, much more so than normal. What do we see in terms of trends so far? Quarterbacks are not only a handful of quarterbacks have thrown for a bucket full of yards. What's going on with the NFL? Is it because of the preseason being kind of truncated? Is that the reason, or is it just the way this year has turned out? Larry, start with you.
I haven't even necessarily noticed that. I noticed it in some games. I mean, it seems pretty much like a normal year. I don't think the kickoff has really made that much difference. Most of the kicks come out to the 30 anyway, so I don't see that being a big deal. And of course, the defenses always start off a little quicker than the offense, regardless of the training camp. And I just think we're in the 3rd and 4th week, starting to round out. New Orleans offense didn't start off slow. They certainly started pretty well, but I don't see that much of a difference, to tell you the truth.
Earl, do you see differences so far this year, or am I jumping the gun on that, or all of us jumping the gun?
I see differences. I'm not going to say you jumped the gun, but I see differences. As far as one of the reasons is, except for Pittsburgh and sometimes Kansas City, I haven't seen any devastating defenses this year at all. It seems like there's a lot besides Dallas and the Commanders. A whole lot of teams are getting just ran over because the defenses are horrible. No, there's no you can't even name 5 defenses in the NFL that are devastating. There's a problem with the defense. Everybody's running up and down, running all over everybody, and that's why it seems kind of hard to believe that the Redskins and some of these teams haven't punted, but those teams who've been winning like that, they've just been running over the other teams they playing. They got losses in the drives.
How much, and let me direct this to you, Chuck, how much is the fact that they don't tackle any during the week, they don't tackle or practice tackling during preseason, they don't play, the stars do not play during preseason. What's going on? Is that a part of what we're seeing?
I absolutely agree. And I think Larry touched on it too. I think that it's going to take a while for the offenses to get going because they don't really play during the exhibition season. The exhibition season is only 3 games, and they don't really have the long training camps. So I think that is part of it. I also think from a trend standpoint, there's something I've noticed. If you're a good coach, this guy in Minnesota, this guy in Green Bay, the guy in Seattle, and maybe the guy in Washington, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But they're coaching, and they've got quarterbacks who are recycled and still doing effective jobs. This guy Malik Willis is with Green Bay, and Green Bay is still winning. This guy Sam Darnold is with Minnesota, and they're winning. So there's some coaching. Our friend Tomlin, who we know is a great coach, what he's doing with Justin Fields, they're 3-0. So I do see that there's some coaching that's going on too in this thing. And I think the field goal kicking is longer than you did back in our day. Mm-hmm. That's the only other thing. I know that was a little long-winded, but that's what I've noticed.
And that's taking the place of some of those punts too. You're right. Because 50 yards is no big deal now.
It's no big deal.
Because everybody seems to be able to have somebody who can kick them and kick them with regularity. It really bothers me, and it's been bothering me for a couple of years now. the hype, the overhype of Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sunshine.
He came out of Clemson. He was anointed as a freshman at Clemson. Ever since that anointing, he's been progressively less, to the point where he's really not that good. He's no better statistically than the guy we always talk about from the New York Giants and, Jones. So why do we get so fallen? Well, not us, because we're smarter than that. The real fellas are smarter than that. But why does the rest of the football watching world fall in love with a player and give him utmost slack that he doesn't deserve? What's going on with Trevor Lawrence? And let me start with you, Earl.
Dave, I don't know why people hype. If the reason why I believe players are hyped up is just the people that hype them up just don't know what they're talking about, or they just don't know. They don't know. They just don't know how to judge talent. Basically, I'm trying to, not be nasty, but that's all. I'm sure there's several people on this show who don't think Trevor Lawrence was all that. Didn't think he was all that when he was at Clemson. But some of us on the show are knowledgeable, so.
Well, we're a knowledgeable group of guys.
Yeah.
I must say that. Chuck, Trevor Lawrence, he ticks me off.
It's weird. He got off to a bad start because of Urban Meyer, right? We thought he was horrible, did a horrible job with him. And then Peterson came there, and it kind of turned around, and they made the playoffs, and he looked pretty good. He was making some progress. And then they've kind of gone backwards, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's Peterson, the coordinator. I don't know if it's quarterback. I don't know, but they wrote him a check this summer.
$55 million.
They're going to spend some time figuring it out. I can tell you that.
Well, that right there tells you what's wrong with them. It's the general manager, their staff. Why do the general manager don't know what he's doing? Who can you name some of the players on Jacksonville team? Any of the wide receivers, the running back? I mean, who do they have?
That's a good point. I just thought I would throw that out there because I'm tired of hearing about Trevor Lawrence. I really am.
I need to comment.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Larry.
He's just one player. Everybody's game doesn't transfer from college to the pros. He's hardly the first one that the media's thought was good or general managers thought was good that didn't pan out. I don't have any particular disdain for him, but he's just not that good.
At some point, do certain players go to certain teams? A case in point might be Malik Willis. This past week, he had a chance to play the team that just disposed of him, the Tennessee Titans. He played well for Green Bay. He's in a backup role, but he's looking like a sure starter. Is it because certain players need to be under certain systems, under certain coaching, being praised or coached better? And Larry, can you address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think those things, where you're located, makes all the difference in the world. I mean, we talk about Geno Smith. I mean, change of scenery, different players, good receivers, it helps you out. That's just it. It depends on where he is. But Willis happened to play the Titans last week, so that probably helped him out a little bit. But he played all right the game before too. So,
well, my Colts would certainly love to have him, considering what's happened with my guy Richardson.
He needs to change his scenery too.
I don't want to give up on Richardson that soon, but he looked horrifically bad. He looked really bad.
He's very young, and he hasn't played a lot of football in his life.
He's the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL.
Who?
He's Richardson.
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson's the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL, and he's played only a handful of games since high school.
Yeah.
Started. He's only a handful of games since high school. All right, here we go.
And go ahead,
Earl.
He also has the strongest arm in the NFL.
He does.
He does, and I think that's what tantalizes the thinkers with the Colts, is that they can make this guy who can probably throw the distance of the football field into something. All I know is it better be soon, because it's not often that I'm cheering for the Colts, but I'm cheering for the Colts. I don't know. All right. Before we go to the NFL's top 5, what is the worst team going into week number 4 in the NFL? And let's start with you, Chuck. Worst team.
I think it's Tennessee. We mentioned them earlier. They played Green Bay. They took their quarterback that they discarded. He beat them. They're 0-3. That quarterback, he's young. He doesn't look good at all.
Okay.
The personnel doesn't look good. I think it's Tennessee right now.
Larry, worst team.
I go with Tennessee or the Jaguars.
All right. Earl, worst team.
Yeah, one of those two, probably the worst teams. Yeah, the two that were named, Tennessee and
Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville.
All right. I'm voting for Miami. They have no quarterback. They have nothing. Right now, I think they're the worst team. If they had their quarterback, who's got his bell knocked off, they would be better. But they looked horrifically bad. Tennessee looks bad too.
You know who they're starting this week? I think David. It's starting your guy, Hundley. Remember how you liked him?
Hundley used to be with Baltimore. He's going to help them. He's better than the dude that got knocked out.
Not really.
He's better than Tua?
No, not Tua.
Oh.
The guy that replaced Tua.
The second guy.
He got knocked out too?
Right.
Yeah, he got knocked out.
I didn't know that.
He got knocked out.
Oh, I saw that.
All right. Top 5, and then we'll move on to college football. Top 5 NFL teams. Earl, let me start with you. Do you have a top 5?
I got Kansas City, Buffalo, Minnesota. That's my top 3. I don't go past that. It's nobody else.
Okay, Larry, top 5.
Buffalo, Kansas City, Seattle, Philadelphia, Minnesota.
All right, Larry, top 5.
Chuck. So here's.
I'm sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, that's okay. This is what I'll do this, and I normally don't do this, but I'm going to do this, and you guys have talked about this in previous weeks. I'm going to go with all 5 of the 3-0 teams, which are Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Seattle, and Kansas City. They're all 3-0. There's only 5 of them. Those are the 5 I'm going with.
Okay, that's as good a pick as any. All right, let's take a look quickly at college football. And before we get into specific games or anything like that, the player that I think is not getting enough credit, maybe he's getting too much credit, Travis Hunter. Is he a candidate? Should he be the front runner for the Heisman Trophy? You know how I feel about the Heisman Trophy. I think it's a fraudulent award because it only goes to quarterbacks these days. But Chuck, your thoughts on Travis Hunter, the great two-way player for the University of Colorado?
If the season ended today, David, I think he would be or should be the Heisman Trophy winner. That guy is spectacular, and he's spectacular on the offensive end. He's spectacular on the defensive end. He is, even though he's slightly built, he'll stick his head in there and pop you. He made a hell of a game-winning tackle the other night against Baylor that caused the fumble and won the game for Colorado. I agree with you. I think if the season ended today, he would be the Heisman Trophy winner. And I think people are talking about him.
Okay, well, I hope so. Larry.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of the other players, but I have seen him play a couple of games. And I gotta think he'd be in the running. I can't really say he's better than everybody else, but he's definitely a very good player. And I wonder what position he would play in the pros.
I think he'll play the money position. Earl.
I think he's a candidate only because he plays both ways, and he averages like 100 yards from the scrimmage, 100 plays from the scrimmage, 100 snaps from the scrimmage. He's a candidate. I don't know about making the Heisman. He hasn't really done enough for me to tell me he's a Heisman. I haven't seen any Heisman Trophy candidates this year yet. Maybe it's too early, or like Larry said, I haven't seen all the games.
Well, everything is very early, and that's why we play the game. That's why we talk about the games, because we're supposed to prematurely anoint, and we're often wrong.
The kid is only a sophomore.
Hunter is only a sophomore.
Yep. Kid's only a
I
sophomore.
think he's got to be more than that. He played at Jackson State, and he's played. This is at least his third college season.
He's not a sophomore, Charles.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But he's a heck of a player.
So-
I'm pulling for him.
He's a junior. He's a junior.
Yeah, so, because if he played for Jackson State, there's no way it could be 2 years. So
You're right. He was a freshman at Jackson State. That's when he got his
he's a
name
junior.
started. You're right.
When he did go to Jackson State, he was the first player from that got all what do we call it?
5-star out of high school.
A 5-star that went to an
Right.
HBCU.
I was wrong.
Well, here's the question I want to ask you, David. Do you think that a lot of people are considering him for the candidate because he does play both sides of the ball?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think? Well, do you think if he just played one side of the ball, he could consider a candidate?
I think he would get votes because he's excellent in both positions. I mean, he may not be the very best defensive back. He may not be the very best wide receiver, but when you put really good defensive back with really good wide receiver, there's nobody that's doing that. The last time somebody was making 100 and some plays in a game was in the 1940s.
Okay.
But the last time we had a kind of a two-way player that won the Heisman Trophy was Charles Woods in 1997. He beat out Peyton Manning.
Yeah, but that was all because of defensive. He didn't play that much on offense. That was all because of his defensive back skills. He played.
Well,
he didn't play wide receiver regularly. He put him in a special situation.
he was also a kick returner as well. He was multi-talented. I'm just tired of seeing quarterbacks. I'm just tired of it. Y'all know how I feel about that. Y'all know how I feel about the fraudulent Heisman Trophy.
He seems to have an impact on every game he plays, and
that matters.
That
matters.
Yeah.
All right. Before we start losing time, real quickly, Major League Baseball. They start the playoffs next week. Shohei Ohtani, before the end of the season, just a couple of days ago, had one of the great games, 6 for 6. He had 3 home runs, knocked in 10 RBI. Spectacular player. Is that one of the greatest games a baseball player has ever had? Single games a baseball player's ever had, Larry?
Well, yeah, it's one of the best games. I don't know if it's the best, but certainly with those stats, definitely was. Even though I would kind of say it was kind of a clown show. Didn't they win 20-0?
Yeah, 20-4.
He had a home run off a shortstop, but still the bases where they weren't really trying to stop him. But statistically, you can't argue with it.
Is he one of the greatest players we've ever seen? Is he a Hall of Famer already?
He's probably, the way he's going, he'll probably be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
All right.
He's 30. But he's 30 years old. It's not like he's been around. We just didn't know about him.
He's played 5. I think he's played 5 major league.
Yeah, something
seasons.
like that. He's played well every year.
And the way Major League Baseball players play and whatever extra that they add to their bodies, they play until they're about 42, 43.
What is his batting average?
It's like
He's
around
290.
No, around 300, right?
What is his,
301.
He's close to 300.
301 now. It's
Okay, yeah, I know
301.
it's around 300.
what is his career batting average? Because the question was asked, is he already Hall of Fame? I have to see what his career batting average is, whether I can say that he's already Hall of Fame.
I think he is already Hall of Fame. Do you agree, Chuck?
I do.
Think
I do.
if he was to die today,
because
would
I
he be
think
Hall
he's
of
in the Hall
Fame?
of Fame because he does 2 things. He's incredible, power, average, all that. But he's also a great pitcher. We haven't even seen that this year. And a guy his size is still 50 bases, even though base stealing is not exactly the same. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'll tell you one other thing, though. You mentioned was at the greatest game. You know, Willie Mays in 1961, he had 4 home runs in one game. 4.
Hey, I don't mean to. I'm sorry. Let me interrupt.
Go ahead, Earl.
Hey, let's stop all that. There has not been a game statistically better than that game that guy had the other day. Y'all can talk about the 4 home run. Y'all can talk about Reggie Jackson's 3 homers. There ain't been no game like this guy had the other day. There haven't been no with individual statistics like he had for that game the other day.
I just said Willie Mays had 4. I think 4 is bigger than 3. Is that right?
But he did. Willie Mays didn't steal
the guy went
that
6
many
for 6.
bases in one game.
He went
He
6
didn't
for
hit
6.
6 for 6.
Willie went 4 for 5 that game,
That
and he played center field. And Shohei is a designated hitter.
playing center field had nothing to do with an individual statistic game.
I don't know what he might have thrown. I don't know.
All right.
What do you mean? Okay, the show's been going
good. But it was not clearly his game was not clearly better than Willie's. It might have been better. But it wasn't better.
Do you remember the total stats, Dave? If someone ran off the stats and said that, it's nothing to even think about.
In my mind, it's one of the greatest games that's ever been played.
I agree with that. I don't disagree with that.
He went 6 for 6. He had 2 stolen bases. How many runs did he drive in?
10.
That
hasn't been done.
So what game is close to that? What the Willie Mays hit 4 home runs is close to that? He hit 3 home runs a game in that game.
All right.
Well, yeah, a lot could depend on the circumstances around it too. Because I watched a lot of that on highlights. Like I said, they brought in the
shortstops.
Yeah,
shortstops.
They're not even trying to get them out because they're down 20-0. They're not even trying to get them out.
All right. Let's see here.
Larry brought it up in the production meeting. Last year, Acuna, he had 70-some stolen bases.
No, the question that David asked.
Okay, I understand that. He said something earlier.
We're not talking about nobody's whole season and all that. We said an individual game. Everything you're talking about doesn't even address the question that was asked.
I'm talking about another comment he made about the kind of season and kind of, I was trying to throw in the fact that a guy had another good year last year too. That was pretty damn good.
And you know what, Chuck? Your comments are appreciated. All right. Real quickly on baseball, since that's all we give baseball anyway. Who's winning the first round of the playoffs? Larry.
Now you say the first round. What do you mean? Like, they haven't quite. I don't think they've quite figured everything out yet. The matchups yet.
The Padres are in. Houston's in. Well, that just goes to show I'm not following as much as I should. Padres are in. Houston's in. Dodgers are in. Baltimore's in. Yankees are in. Who else is in?
Baltimore. I'm trying to think of who. I think some
Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Philly, yeah, they're in. And
I think some of them don't play in the first round. That's the whole thing. I'm not sure the matchups are set up yet.
All right, well, let's just go to who's going to be in the World Series. That'll be simpler for us. Earl, who's in the World Series?
I'm looking at. I can't predict coming out of the American League, but I will say that San Diego is going to the National League.
Okay.
I like it.
Chuck, who's
I like the Yankees. I like the Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series.
That would be a good one. Larry, who's going to the World Series?
Philadelphia is coming out of the National League, and probably the Yankees out of the American League.
Okay. And there it is about baseball. All right. The NBA starts their preseason and practice next week. I think, well, actually, maybe in the next few days. Joel Embiid is now the highest paid NBA player at $64 million annually. And he's going to get all of that since everybody in the NBA gets guaranteed deals. Is Joel Embiid worth $64 million per year? And let me start with you, Chuck.
So you've schooled me. It's taken me a couple of years. You've brought me around on this whole, the salaries are going to continue to go up at certain sports and positions. And so, yes, the answer is yes. If Halliburton is worth $52 million.
Oh, why you got to do that?
Well, I'm showing you that you were right. I'm showing you that you've turned me. You've turned me. No, what I'm trying to say is you've turned me on this subject.
You could have picked another player.
Well, yeah. So indeed, yeah, I do think he's worth it, I guess.
All right. He's worth it. Larry.
Yeah.
Right.
My opinion on money, come up at the right time, you get it. You're in the right situation. What was Philly going to do? Let him walk?
No.
Yeah, they had to pay. Even though he has been an injury, he hasn't. One of my favorite players, but he has not been healthy. But I can't see Philly letting him walk.
He's always hurt. Earl, is Embiid worth $64 million annually?
Yes, he is worth $64 million, without a doubt. And since his name was brought up, and Halliburton is not worth $52 million.
Why you gotta pick on me? Anyway, it's because that is picking on me, but that's okay. I can take it. I got my Pacers hat on. Real quickly, how soon will the first player get to $75 million per year? How soon will that happen? And whether it's football, baseball, or basketball, how soon will we see a 10 million jump in salaries for somebody in one of the leagues? And Earl, when do you think that's going to be?
Well, if Ohtani doesn't get hurt, he'll be when he's up for his next contract, he will be the one. But I
think technically isn't his
he
contract
might already be there.
But so much is deferred. But on an annual basis, since we're looking at it in that manner, he's at 70 million, right? I think he's at 70.
Yeah, something like that. I think he got 700 million over 10 years.
Okay, but that's not 75 million.
Okay.
Well, I heard him say 70.
No.
I think
I 75 million.
How soon, Larry, other than Shohei Ohtani, how soon will the next player go over 70 or 75 million?
Probably be about 7 years. It won't be before 5 years, I'll tell you that.
Larry.
It could happen any time in baseball because they don't have a salary cap, and they have the Dodgers and the Yankees that are willing to pay people.
Okay. Chuck, how soon?
Well, that guy Soto's contract's up at the end of this year. I don't know if he's going to get that number, but I maybe somebody like Wembanyama when he becomes eligible for his contract because the NBA just signed a huge new television streaming, blah blah blah. So he has a chance to get to that number, perhaps, depending on how his development goes the next couple of years.
He's so good. He proved himself to me in the Olympics. Any doubts that I might have had about him in the Olympics are gone. He can do everything.
It doesn't necessarily have to be him because it could be anybody that hits it at the right time. I'll still go with baseball because they have no salary cap.
Right.
Well, you probably are right. Real quick, the Indiana Fever are up on the Connecticut Sun right now. The Fever are down 1 game to none, and this is a best of 3 first round series. Is there something wrong with the WNBA having 2 games at home for the better source team? Is there something wrong with that, Earl?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What did you want? A 1-1, a 1-1-1-1? Is that what you want?
Yes, that's what I personally would want.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it being
okay. Chuck.
I see both sides. I really do. And I don't think anything's wrong with 1-1-1, but I do see both sides. And quite frankly, wrong. This might be a Chuck problem. I ain't really care until this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really didn't come to my attention that strongly, and except the fact that Connecticut is playing the Fever 2 games at home before they can even get back to Indiana, and the series could be over.
Well, I guess that's a way of rewarding the higher seeds. I guess you want the first 2 home games. Then
I think it's just different. It's just different. There's nothing wrong with it. And the other team has got to win a road game. But if that team wins a road game, then it looks a lot different going home for your final game.
Well, the way I see it, and I'm not really giving as much opinion tonight as much as I want to. I think the WNBA is shooting themselves in the foot if they continue with this approach. They've had the best season in terms of marketing and revenue and in terms of attention that they've ever had. They've got to build on that. And next year cannot be all Caitlin. They cannot just do best of three with the better team getting 2 home games and the other team not even getting a chance. Because look at the people in Atlanta.
What's wrong with that?
Because I think you've got to start spreading this out. There's so much racial animus regarding everything's Caitlin Clark. Spread it out.
But I'm talking about the 2. We started with the 2 games that they won.
Yeah,
I don't know the racial stuff there. I mean,
I'm not impugning race to the 2 and 1. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just talking about the overall approach that the WNBA needs to start taking. They got a nice start, a real boost thanks to Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and others. But we didn't know really about A'ja Wilson. Only those of us who paid any attention to the WNBA even knew her name. Kelsey Mitchell with the Indiana Fever for 7 freaking years, never went to the playoffs yet. When she gets Caitlin Clark alongside her, she's averaging 20-some points a game and is finally in the playoffs. You've got to be able to enhance players like Kelsey Mitchell, A'ja Wilson, Brianna Stewart.
Plum. Lady from Minnesota.
We've got a lot of great players, so they've got to find a way to make sure.
David, I really believe they will. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, right? It's going to be gradual. But I think it will. I think they'll start.
All you guys that just watched Caitlin Clark got to start watching other games.
All right.
Well, I've been watching from the beginning. I just don't watch all the time. My favorite player, Cynthia Cooper. Nobody touches Cynthia Cooper for me.
Right.
When I saw her play, I'm like, damn, she had game. And she was 30-some years old at the time. She was 30. She played with Cheryl Miller. Anyway, let's see. Oh, by the way, real quickly, Ball State Cardinals face the Madison Dukes. James Madison beat the University of North Carolina Tar Heels 70-50. They play the mighty Ball State Cardinals. What's the score going to be, Chuck?
It's going to be a big number, David. I'm afraid there might not be many people around in the second half in that stadium.
Ball State, you know how much I care about my.
Are you going to the game, David?
It's in Virginia.
Oh, it's in James Madison. Okay. Yeah,
it's in Virginia. If it was here, no, I wouldn't. Unless it was, Alumni Day where they invite us back.
Right.
Those are the last couple of games I went back on alumni game. And, even though I shouldn't probably have been there as little as I played, but I was there. Anyway, I say
big college game. I mean, we'll get into this more next week, I'm sure. But there's a big college game down in at Alabama this weekend between Georgia.
Alabama, Georgia. Who's winning that game?
I think even though Alabama's the underdog, I think it's at Alabama. I think Alabama's going to win.
Okay.
I like their quarterback, Milrose.
All right. Any other thoughts on college football before we close out the show?
Alabama will win by 10.
By 10?
Yep.
That's the sports doctor, right?
Sports doctor's talking.
Sports doctor.
Larry, who wins? Alabama,
Georgia.
Okay. And there you have it, folks.
They're both wrong.
All right. Closing comments.
I have one.
I have one too.
Hold on. Chuck, you got to close.
All right, mine will be quick. Mine will be quick.
Go ahead.
So we were just talking about college football. We got a big one down in Bloomington this weekend. My alma mater, Indiana University, they're 4-0. They play the University of Maryland, a local team. They're 3-1. If Indiana beats Maryland, that would put them at 5-0. It would be the first time since 1967 that they have been 5-0. There's something happening with this guy Signetti, the head coach of Indiana, who came from James Madison. So I'm pulling for the Hoosiers. Good local game between the local team, Maryland Terrapins, at IU. Go Hoosiers. I just want to make mention of that.
I'm pulling for the Hoosiers too. Larry, you got a closing comment, sir?
Yeah, I'm telling everybody, tune into the WNBA playoffs. Very intense basketball. All the games are very good. And if the top 4 seeds actually advance, that's going to be a very, very on paper, it looks like it's going to be very, very competitive. But it's very good basketball, 2 games on the night. And I think the next game starts on Sunday. The next round starts on Sunday. Tune in.
Earl, any closing comments?
Yes, I have my closing comment is on, even though he turned out to be a criminal for drug trafficking, I still want to give a shout out to and rest in peace to Mercury Morris. Mercury Morris was the running back with the 17-0 Miami Dolphins. He was to change the pace back that Shula were bringing to change things up. But actually, he was a better running back than Jim Kick, even though Jim Kick got all the publicity.
Then Zonka or Kick?
Huh?
Maybe Zonka and Kick. Better running
I
back.
think he's a better running back than that. Zonka was to be dealt with. Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. Okay, but anyway, Mercury Morris was he was awesome. He was one of the leaders of the team and went 17-0. By the way, they played Chuck's Commanders in that game and lost. But he was a great running back. Kind of sorry to find out that he was a drug trafficker, but he was definitely a good running back for Miami Dolphins, for sure.
I think that's the game that the punter from Miami tried to punt it, and then Mike Bass took it back for a touchdown.
No, field goal kicker had a bad snap and tried to throw a pass.
Right, that's what it was. Yeah. I think that's the only
Harold Premium.
Yes.
All right. I got a quick closing comment. No matter what we think of what's going on with Brett Favre in Mississippi and whether he is took some money illegally, diverted money into where it shouldn't be, he announced at a hearing, maybe conveniently, that he is now suffering from Parkinson's, the beginning of Parkinson's syndrome. And no one can be upset with Brett Favre's personal life, understanding that he's fighting the fight of his life at this point. And football, once again, has proved to be a brutal, brutal sport, and more players than we know will suffer from Parkinson's or CTE or some potential deadly brain injury. And that is our show. I hate to end it on such a sad note, but Brett Favre was a great football player, and now he's got open for the fight of his life. Gentlemen,
let's not end it on a sad note. I'll make one quick plug.
Go right ahead.
Old young Charles Snowden had his first sack in the National Football League on Sunday. I mean, they got crushed, but he had a sack.
Charles Snowden III, right on.
Yeah,
Papa is proud. And that, with that note, gentlemen, Chuck, Larry, Earl, and me, Mr. Burnett. Good
job,
night.
David.